I'm Ben Goodbrand. Today I'm going to take you through a bit of an update on my Trek Marlin 5. I've had the bike for about a month now, so I thought I'd give you my experience so far using this bike. Before we get into that, just like to thank all of the people who are already subscribed to my channel. If you haven't already, please do consider doing so and turning notifications on so you see all of my future videos. Please like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Let's take a look at the bike. So far, my experience with this bike has been mostly urban riding. I've been riding around the streets around the suburb here, at home in Western Sydney. Haven't had the opportunity, unfortunately, to take it on a dedicated mountain bike track so far. Things just conspired against me. I had a bike rack for my car. The bikes didn't really fit on that. My wife has a Trek Marlin 5 too, which I showed you in the previous video. They didn't really fit on that bike rack very well, so that's going to have to wait before we can get over to the track. But we have been riding around, like I said, around the streets, local parks. There is a nice walking track and bike path around here that we go on every now and then. I've also been enjoying taking my daughter out for a ride. We go to the local park. She's really into riding her bike at the moment. She's only been off her training wheels for about, probably 3 or 4 months. She's getting more confident riding, and as you can see, she loves just powering on around the local park. So getting out with her has been a real pleasure. Today, I'm going to take you through some of the good, bad and ugly things about the Marlin 5 that I've experienced so far. You may agree or disagree, but really this is just my experience with the bike. So please don't get upset if I offend anyone, or if you've got a different opinion to me. I'd love to hear it though. Leave your comments and let me know what your thoughts are if you've got a Trek Marlin 5 or a similar, a 6 or a 7. First up, we'll start with the good. The thing I really love most about the Marlin 5 and most of Trek's bikes, they just look fantastic. I mean, look at that bike. The frame, I love the way the contour of the frame, the way they just don't use round steel tubing or round aluminium tubing. They actually have like a square section. This is a rectangular section. Looks really great. The paint colors that they're choosing at the moment are excellent. This is I can't remember the color name actually for this bike. You'll see it in my previous video, but it's like a dark bluey green that fades into a black, and it's just beautiful out in the sun. Previous to the Trek Marlin 5, I actually had a Trek, I think it was a 3700. That bike was about 12 years old, and the big difference between a modern bike like this and an older Trek, or any older mountain bike for that matter, is the geometry. The geometry has become slacker. This has a slacker geometry, which means that basically the front forks are sitting out at a bigger angle from the rider or from the handlebars. Just feels like you're sitting on the bike a little nicer. On the Trek 3700, I was sitting way up over the top of the handlebars. It just felt really upright and awkward, and it didn't make for a very nice handling bike. This, a little bit slacker, feels so much nicer. Having said that, I am greedy. I really do wish there was a little bit more angle, and I'll probably upgrade to something that's a bit more of a sort of a cross country, or maybe even a downhill bike in the future. Full suspension downhill bike has a really slack geometry. I really like that, but for the moment this is doing such a great job. I love it. The great thing too, in comparison to my old bike, and this is really where there's been a big change in bikes from a decade ago, is the 29-inch wheel. Bikes these days typically come with a 27.5 or a 29-inch wheel. My old 3700 had just a 26-inch wheel, and you just feel the difference. It's so much smoother over bumps, going up and down hilly terrain where there's ruts and bumps and rocks and stuff. You just glide over those imperfections so much easier than with the smaller wheels. So I really love that. But really, the biggest thing that I really like about the Trek Marlin 5 so far is just riding it. I love getting out into the outdoors, getting a sweat, getting the fresh air, and just getting on the bike and being free. In comparison to doing some sort of cardio activity here in my studio, riding on the static air bike or on the rower, It's just so much more enjoyable. I feel like I can go and do that for 45 minutes to an hour and just, feel really refreshed afterwards. If I do that on a rower or a static bike, I just feel like I've exercised but not had any sort of health or mental benefit. So really, riding the bike is the biggest benefit for me at the moment. And that brings us to the bad. So I do have a few bad points or a few dislikes about this bike. Now, it's going to sound like I'm bashing on the bike a little bit, and I'm not, but there are some things I wish were different. It's got a 3x7 gear set, which is really, really noisy. It slaps around a lot. I've already dropped the chain a couple of times. It's not ideal. Yeah, you get a good spread of gears, but really with a 1x gear set, all of that noise, all that slackness would go away. It just feels like maybe, if I had the opportunity again, I'd probably upgrade to maybe a Marlin 6 or 7. So the 6 has a 2x gear set, the 7 has a 1x. I think spending a little bit more on those bikes to get that superior gear set would be a good option for me. Something that really surprised me was the power of the hydraulic disc brakes, or the comparative lack of power. I was expecting upgrading from my 3700, which had linear pull brakes, to something with such a big step up in terms of braking power. I would have thought that the brakes on this would be much more powerful. I haven't experienced that. Maybe my expectations were too high, but for me, I was expecting a lot more out of the brakes. My next gripe is actually with the forks. Now, I know they're not a high-end fork, they're an entry-level fork, but they really are super soft. When I'm lifting the front wheel up just to go over a big, maybe gutter or rock or something like that, it feels like they're really, really loose and soft. I've even been back to the Trek shop and asked them about it, asked them about the preload adjustment to try to tighten it up a little bit. Basically told me that the preload adjustment is useless, it does nothing, and that really at this price point, I'm not going to get anything that I'm looking for. Having said that, I've ridden other bikes, like my 3700, didn't have that same problem, and they weren't as, they're a 12-year-old bike now with 12-year-old fork, so never had that problem. I'm not sure if it's just this bike or if that's common. I might test on my wife's bike to see if it's the same deal there, but really disappointed in the forks. No lockout, not a big deal. I've ridden bikes before with no lockout, didn't have a problem, but I think a lockout feature on this bike in that situation would be a good option. Now this next dislike is not really, it's not the fault of the bike, it's really the design. Look, the bright yellow grips, they just get really dirty, and I know that's not a big problem. I mean, it's a mountain bike, it's going to get dirty anyway. But I'm not sure whether it's the fact that they're getting dirty or the fact that it just really stands out a lot. Some days I feel like the bright yellow, I really like it. Other days it just feels like it's too much. So I've actually tried my wife's black hand grips on this bike, as you can see here. And I think that soon I'll probably just change the grips to a black grip. Let me know what your thoughts are. Black grip, keep the yellow grip. Maybe even do the pedals, but the pedals don't bother me so much. It's the grips that probably need to be changed from my personal point of view. And that brings us to the ugly. I don't like using the word ugly because it's a beautiful bike, but the ugly thing is the saddle. Not from a aesthetic point of view, but ergonomically, it's just awful. Like, there is no padding at all. I can be in the saddle for 10 minutes and I'm already sore. So that's something that I'm probably going to look at changing. I don't know if you guys have any ideas about what type of saddle to change to. I know today that all the mountain bikes come with a sleek, low profile saddle, but this is just ridiculous. It needs some more padding. It feels like it's got a little bit of padding there, but as soon as you sit on it, it's really, really harsh. So in summary, the first month of ownership of my Trek Marlin 5, I've really enjoyed it. You know, I spoke about a few things that I didn't like, but overall, for a $699 bike, that's Australian dollars, I don't think you can go wrong buying this bike, provided you're willing to wait for a little while to get one, because they're really hard to come by. You have to pre-order, wait for the bike to come into the store and then go and pick up. We had to pay a deposit to get our bikes, to secure our bikes, but that wasn't a big problem. It was about 5 or 6 weeks for us to get our bikes. Don't know what the waiting time would be now, but I can imagine probably just as long, if not longer, coming into Christmas. Overall, really enjoying the bike, loving the looks, loving the geometry, loving getting out riding in the fresh air. I would say if you're looking at an entry-level mountain bike that's not from, your big box sort of variety store or discount store, head over to Trek, check out the Marlin 5. Thanks very much for watching, guys. If you haven't already, like I said, please do subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.